In a windscrub frontier town called Split Rock, where boardwalks creaked and the water trough outside the livery ran muddy by noon, a small cookshop clung to the corner of Main. It belonged to Miss Alma Crowe. At first light she kindled her fire beneath a blackened chuck wagon kettle, ladled out thick stew, and fed whoever drifted in, cowhands off night watch, freighters with dust in their teeth, prospectors who smelled of cold ore. Her fare was simple and hearty, always fresh, somehow fuller and rounder than the same beans and beef anyone else served. Yet something about Alma's place bent the usual order of things. Split Rock already had plenty of grub shacks and pie counters, but her crowd was different. Folks rode in from line camps and river diggings, and the line outside her doorway ran long as a cattle drive. At times it spilled into the street, backing up wagons and making riders swear as they reined aside. No one could rightly say why her bowls called to a body like church bells at dawn. When asked, Alma only gave a soft smile and said she cooked with love, then turned back to her kettle. Not long before that, she'd been just another woman hustling to keep a stove hot. She cooked careful, poured her heart into every pot, and still the benches stayed empty. Weariness gathered in her bones. The ledger bled red. One dusk, with the last of her flour measured out and a quiet-like surrender in the room, Alma walked beyond the stockyards and dry gulch to a tumble shack wedged into a wash. There lived Ezekiel Thorn, an old desert healer with eyes sunk deep and a beard like wind-blown sage. People said he trafficked in remedies older than the first trail cut west. Alma laid out her troubles. "My stew is good," she said, voice worn thin, "but the people don't come. I'm out of roads, Mr. Thorn. Can you help me?" Ezekiel listened without a rustle, then studied her as if sound itself were a lie. "Your cooking ain't the trouble," he said at last. "It's the air braided round you. This town, these folks, they're not pulled to your spirit." He tapped a knuckle on the table. "There's a way, but the cost is dear." "Tell me," Alma breathed. "There's an old working," he said, "one that draws what a soul desires. It demands offering." His words were dry as mesquite. "To call people to your door, you must lay down a measure of yourself. Cut your leg with a Bowie knife. The wound won't close. A piece of flesh must be carried to the stone circle in Dead Horse Canyon and set down in order. Keep the doing quiet. Each day, wash the wound with the very water you cook with. Do this, and your pot will never lack for spoons. Forget it or flaunt it, and the trail ends bad." Fear and a fierce little hope tangled in Alma's chest. She nodded. Ezekiel made ready without ceremony. Steel met skin. The blade bit deep. Pain flared like lightning and stayed like weather. When the rite was finished and the flesh bundled away for the canyon, something ran through her, an upsurge that felt like the frontier itself had reached up from its red earth and claimed her as kin. Her legs buckled. Ezekiel's voice rasped from behind. "Your road is chosen. Guard the secret, or you'll lose more than you paid." After that, Split Rock changed its gait around Alma's door. Riders swung down before unsaddling. Teamsters unhitched late so they could eat first. Rumor galloped faster than the coach. They said her stew had a depth nobody could match, a richness that settled a man's shaking hands. Folks offered to scrub kettles or haul wood if it meant their bowl came quick. Other counters went quiet. Envy and suspicion gathered under awnings and in the shade of the saloon's batwings. Lydia Pike, a young seller with a pie stand across the way, watched crowds flood Alma's place and felt her own till go light. She began to mark Alma's comings and goings. One night, when Main Street went hush except for a coyote somewhere beyond the freight yard, Lydia ghosted after Alma. She saw Alma set a tin basin behind the chuck wagon, roll her skirt to the knee, and bear a wound that glistened raw. Instead of ointment, Alma dipped a rag into the same water she used for the kettle and washed the cut, her face sliced by pain and then smoothed by relief. Lydia's breath caught. She had heard prairie stories of dark bargains and moonlit rites. She had never believed. Now belief took her by the throat. At sunup she whispered what she'd seen to other vendors. They doubted. When they put it to Alma out front, Alma denied it clean. To end the chatter, she offered Lydia a ladleful herself. Lydia ate, cheeks hot with shame and anger, while half the street watched her swallow. Days later, Lydia's eyes snagged again on Alma's shadow. She followed at a distance as the crowd thinned and the boards on the walk clicked with the slow feet of the last patrons. Alma carried the basin to the back. The wound had festered, swollen, and dark at the edges. A rank smell lifted on the night. Alma prayed under her breath and kept to the ritual, rag in the cooking water, wiping the ruin the knife had made. In the sliver of lamplight, Lydia saw white worms working in the meat. Disgust and a hard, righteous fury broke loose in her. "What are you doing, Alma Crowe?" Lydia cried, stepping from the shadows. Alma froze, snatching at her skirt. Too late. Lydia's voice sliced the quiet wide open. "She's washing her wound in the water that feeds you." Heads turned up and down Main, boots scuffed. People drew close as Lydia pointed, hands shaking. "You've been serving us cursed food, dragging folks here with your own flesh. That's why your line never ends." Alma fell to her knees. "Please," she whispered, tears cutting clean paths on her dusty cheeks. "Don't tell them. I had no choice. I only wanted to keep the stove lit." Lydia set her jaw. No more lies. They deserved the truth. The circle around them thickened. Murmurs rose. Shock, revulsion, a thrill that felt like fear's mean cousin. Alma clutched her leg as if she could hold the hurt inside, but the wound swelled like a blister of night. It split. A sour stench rushed out. A lacing of maggots poured down her shin. Someone gagged. Someone else crossed himself. Alma screamed high and wild, eyes skittering as if the world had slipped its shape. She clawed at her face and hair, at her stained apron, as if she could scrape away guilt with fingernails. Then she ran. She ran crooked and fast, leaving a dark, wet trail, bolting from the alley, shoving through the ring of watchers. "They're coming," she shrieked. "The spirits won't let me go." People stumbled back, palms over noses, words knocked out of them. Alma tore up the center of Main just as the overland stage rattled into town, lamps swinging, driver standing high, reins drawn hard. "Ho, clear!" he yelled, but Alma didn't hear. The coach struck her with a heavy wooden finality. Horses reared, iron shoes sparking on stone. The stage ground to a halt. Passengers screamed inside. Alma lay still in the lamplight, skirt torn, leg wound yawning as if it had never meant to close. Split Rock fell quiet as a graveyard. Before midnight, the tale had already slipped into every saloon and bunkhouse. Some claimed the desert spirits had come to collect their due. Others said the weight of Alma's shame broke her mind and pushed her under the coach wheels. Either way, people lowered their voices when they spoke her name. Along the frontier, where hunger and hope share a plate, Alma Crowe's story turned into a cold whisper, a warning about the peril of desperate hunger for success and the heavy price paid for secrets kept in the dark.